Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Big Blues podcast. This is part 2 of 3 of our State of the New York Giants series, where today we are going to be looking extensively at the New York Giants offense outside of Daniel Jones. In case you missed our first episode, go back to wherever you get podcasts or on YouTube and listen to our first episode where we cover the state of the Giants franchise. Where we look at Joe Judge, Dave Gettleman, and Daniel Jones. All right, so today, in this particular episode, part 2, we're going to be covering the offense outside of Daniel Jones. And then part 3, we're going to be covering the entire New York Giants defense. So, Matt, are you ready to talk about the Giants offense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely ready to talk about the Giants offense. This is probably the most interesting unit the Giants have heading into 2021 because there's so many changes, and on top of there being so many changes, there are kind of so many players who, for lack of a better term, are kind of in make or break years, right? Where, we're kind of getting to the point with some of these players where if things don't kind of start trending in the right direction, we're going to have to press the panic button. And we talked about Daniel Jones separately. He's obviously the biggest part of the offense, and it is kind of the hand's getting closer and closer to the panic button on Jones. But now it's kind of ready to talk about the rest of the offense around him. So,
yeah, because it's at this point, it's kind of get off the pot time for some of these players, if that makes any sense. So we got to start seeing some more out of them. But let's start with one of the more dynamic pieces of the Giants offense that they missed all of last season. Now, again, you all know, if you've listened to us for a long time, you know our thoughts on Saquon Barkley. Neither of us are fans or were fans of the Saquon Barkley pick, so we're not going to go down that rabbit hole today. But we are going to talk about what he could bring to the Giants offense, if healthy, heading into the 2021 season. So, Matt, I guess let's start there. What are your expectations for Saquon Barkley this year if he's healthy and he's able to come back?
I mean, it's kind of throughout this episode, you guys are going to find that we're going to be mentioning different pieces of the offense at the same time. I think that the addition of Kenny Golladay, who really is like a true outside threat, is going to make Saquon Barkley's life running the football so much easier. That I really think that if we can get 17 games of a healthy Saquon Barkley, that it's going to be his best season yet. Like, he's going to top that rookie performance where he went over 2,000 yards. That's in the realm of possibility. The line, as bad as the line is better than what it was in 2018 when he was a rookie. And, getting him back and healthy, maybe not reception-wise because Jones moves around. Jones isn't going to check down as much as Eli did. But in terms of running the football, I think this could be the year where we get the best Saquon that we've ever seen.
See, I'm going to go ahead and guarantee that it's going to be the year where we get the best Saquon we've ever seen because Dave Gettleman wants to give him $25 million. Like, Dave Gettleman wants to roll out of bed and give him – and if he has like 2,000 total yards this year, it will completely justify doing that in the eyes of Dave Gettleman, even though it actually wouldn't in the eyes of actual football and people who know the cap and the impacts that a $20 million or even more realistically, it's not going to be $20 million, but likely $17, $18 million a year contract, giving that to a running back, like what that does to your football team is not good. But just with how bad the Giants' luck has been when it comes to free agents, like, for example, obviously we're going to talk about the defense, but Leonard Williams had the best year of his career probably that he'll ever have last year. And it was, of course, in a contract year. And I have no doubt that Saquon Barkley, yes, I know he's got the fifth-year option, is going to have a great year because of that as well.
I think the big thing, what Saquon does for the offense, just in terms of being a receiver and being a rusher, and Daniel Jones not having that last year. I'm not someone who's very big on running backs change the way that teams play. I mean, generally speaking, for the most part, running backs do whatever you give them the opportunity to do. And, you have guys like Saquon who could do a little bit more, but they don't overall have this giant effect on the offense. So I don't want to make it seem like Saquon Barkley is going to come in and that's going to be the reason why Daniel Jones turns it around and becomes
it's not, because it's not. And there's people who think that. There's Giants fans who think that because Saquon Barkley's back that it's going to change Daniel Jones's entire career arc. And that's just not going to happen. If you think that, you're going to be highly disappointed this year.
What it does do, though, what Saquon does do is he adds another weapon that can, when you're on the 30-yard line, could take it 70 yards down the field. That's what Saquon does, and that's what the Giants were missing last year. The Giants didn't have that many big plays last year. And, the fact that you can, maybe do a screen pass to Saquon, or you're going to hand the ball off to Saquon, and really anywhere he's on the field, you have that touchdown potential. That's what makes Saquon Barkley special, and that's really what this team needs. Because, in today's NFL, Dan, and you look back the last couple of years, teams don't really go on these long 8, 9, 10-minute drives anymore to score touchdowns. Touchdowns come quick, they come fast. They're big
speed
plays.
Kills. Speed kills in this league, man. And nowadays,
it's big plays, and just having a big play guy like Saquon Barkley on the field, that's really going to help the Giants' offense just as a whole. And then obviously there's also the concern of Saquon Barkley not kind of gaining those gritty yards. I know fans don't like to talk about it.
Yeah, well, because he doesn't. He's Aaron Judge in the sense that, he goes out there, he's either taking it 70 yards or he's going to get stopped for a 2-yard loss. And that has, I think, always been the criticism of Barkley. It's everybody loves the big long runs, but he's got to get the tougher yards this year if this team's going to win games. Because I think the main point of the running game in football nowadays is, really you should be throwing on first downs. Analytics say you should be throwing on more first downs than running on more first downs. But, when you get a 2nd and 4, do you have a running back that can convert that into another first down? And the answer to that has to be yes. Those are the tough yards you need Barkley to get in today's league.
And that's, again, mathematically, statistically, that's always been a concern of Barkley. I'm pretty sure when you look back, if you take out all the runs that go 20 yards or more, Saquon.
You've done it.
And I have. Saquon was averaging less than 3 yards a carry, which you can't have. You can't have. So that's kind of what we need to see from Saquon. The next step for him is let's gain those gritty yards, especially as this team can start, being ahead in football games, right? You're going to need Saquon Barkley to gain you the 4 yards, on 2nd and 4 to turn it into a first down that keeps.
If you're up a touchdown at the end of a game, right? Because this team should be better than last year, so they should win more games. If you're up a touchdown with 3 minutes left, can Saquon Barkley get you 10 yards to ice the game?
Yep.
Those are the type of runs and those are some of the 10 hardest yards you will get as a team in a given week. And he hasn't done it in his career. Partly because the Giants have sucked his whole career. We haven't been winning, but
I do want to say that's also a possibility as to why Saquon hasn't gained those yards. We haven't seen him do that.
Maybe, yeah.
Is because if you're in the third quarter and you're already down 14 points, who gives a crap if you get 3 yards on a run instead of getting losing a yard? Because maybe if you bounce it out, there's a 25% chance you break it big. He might be taking that chance instead because his team's down. So it's definitely something that we kind of have to watch this year, especially since, again, Saquon, that 5th-year option, that's kind of a contract year per se for running backs.
Yeah.
Most running backs get their money after that 4th season before that 5th-year option.
Right. So this is essentially a contract. Right. All right. We talk about how speed kills. Let's talk about the Giants receiving corps. Now, we want to preface this by saying every year this happens with Giants fans, and it's because of Victor Cruz, and I love Victor Cruz. Love him to death.
We have a reward for this because of Giants fans.
Yes, we call it this year's Victor Cruz Award. We do. And in some other episode, we'll announce it. But I don't want to waste our time as a fan base, and it's going to happen. But I don't want to waste our time and our energy talking about Austin Mack, who's not going to make the team.
CJ Board.
Or David Sills.
Caden Smith.
I don't care how good he was in college. I don't want to waste our time talking about the pass catchers as a whole, right? We have very good pass catchers this year. For the first time since probably the 2012 season, or when we had Nix and Cruz and 2011 we had Nix, Cruz, Manningham. Our receiving core is loaded. It's absolutely loaded with players. All right, and I'm not just talking about our wide receivers, but I'm also talking our tight ends, our pass catchers as a whole. Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, John Ross, Evan Engram, Kyle Rudolph.
Stop right there.
Loaded.
Stop right there. Until guys start going down, that's all we need to talk about.
Right,
because
that's it.
Until there are injuries that are happening, those are the only guys that are going to touch the field.
That's it, right?
Or
because the Giants will run a lot of 2 tight end sets and a lot of. I think a lot of times people think it's like Madden, where it's like, oh, we'll just throw 5 receivers out. When do you ever see 5 receivers out of the field? Especially because when you consider Barkley's going to be back this year. I mean, that might be about it. But even so, like Engram will play those too, because Engram is a de facto receiver at this point. So
teams don't even play 4. I mean, 4 wide receivers is increasing around the league, but you don't even see that a ton.
Yeah, I mean the Cardinals do that, but that's about it.
Most teams,
that's about it.
Most teams are in your standard 11 personnel and 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back, and that's what they roll out.
And I can see the Giants still, even with this group, doing a lot of, 22? Is that 2 tight ends or 21? 2 tight ends and a running back.
Yep.
And I can see that happening a lot this year too. So, but let's break down. Let's kind of go player by player here. Let's talk about Kenny Golladay first, because Kenny Golladay is, the expectations on him are high. He signed a massive contract. We both agree it was an overpayment, right?
So, the Giants
was
overpaid.
Let's just call it what it is. And now I'm probably more excited about him than you are.
I think as Giants fans, the expectation has to be we will never see Kenny Golladay live up to the contract, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad contract.
Right. Yeah, he's never going to be – he's not a top 5 receiver. Galladay's not a top – you're not going to see a Stephon Diggs type season for him this year. I don't want to put those types of expectations on him.
He's not even a volume receiver. I don't think –
no, he's not.
I don't think Kenny Golladay is going to step into 140 targets this year. He's not. I don't think we're going to see Kenny Golladay catch 100 passes. I think he's a 70, 75 catch player. That's what he is.
But I think where the contested catch ability, the ability to have a guy who you could throw the ball up to, he leads the NFL in contested catches over the past 2 seasons, and he's barely played. Like last year, he missed a lot of time. So the guy is a beast when it comes to going up and getting the ball. So in the red zone, on 3rd downs, if Daniel Jones is under duress, just throw it up to Golladay, see if he can make something happen, right? So I think that's the type of value that Golladay brings. But so in that sense, he's a true perimeter threat.
On the flip side, one thing we haven't seen too much from Daniel Jones is throwing the ball into tight windows.
No, he doesn't like to do it.
So the question now becomes, you signed Kenny Golladay, he's this massive wide receiver. You're going to struggle to find any really CB that's going to beat him at a jump ball. Can the Giants find ways to get him the football, even though he's not going to get a ton of separation? Because he's not. That's one of the biggest complaints that we heard time and time again last year. Daniel Jones was bad because his receivers can't separate. Okay, well, the receiver you just signed to a massive contract
can't separate.
He can't separate either.
He can't. But that's not his game. He's not a speed receiver. That's not his game. His game is to go up and get it tight. But again, Giants fans like to distort things. We have a bad habit as Giants fans. They really like to put expectations on guys that are just not. He's not going to get 100 catches. I would be shocked if he has 100 catches this year. Shocked.
So just a question for you, Dan, because out of all the pass catchers the Giants have, I think expectations is Kenny Golladay is going to lead the team. If he plays 17 games, he's going to lead the team in targets. He should lead the team in yards. He should lead the team in touchdowns. And this is hard. We talked kind of about this in with Daniel Jones too. What kind of, you don't have to give me stats either. What would be a quote-unquote successful season for Kenny Golladay?
A successful season for Kenny Golladay for me is healthy more often than not. So I'm not even saying play all 17 games. I'm saying give me 12 to 14 games. All right?
That's fair.
Because he does have the injury bug. Okay? And then one thing I want to see more than catches, I want to see 7 to 10 touchdowns this year. That's what I want to see from him. Because, again, if you bought him in to help score the football, we were not good at scoring the football last year. He's a big dude. He could catch the ball in traffic very well. So I want to see them utilize that in the red zone, be creative with getting him the ball in the red zone. And I also want to see him be efficient with his red zone targets. I don't want to look at the end of the season and be like, oh, yeah, he only caught 3 of 20 of his red zone targets for touchdowns for 15%. Like, I want him to be closer to like 40 or 50% conversion rate on his red zone targets for touchdowns. Those are those would be. I'm not even worried about like catch numbers or yard numbers as much as be that red zone threat.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm not worried. This isn't fantasy football. If this is fantasy football, it's a different conversation. I'm not worried
Right.
if Galladay catches 70 passes and barely gets over 1,000 yards, but he's putting up 12 touchdowns. There are multiple games where in the fourth quarter it's 3rd and 5, and the Giants are running some sort of fade route to Galladay on the outside, and he's making a big catch to close the game out. Those kinds of things. Those are the things that I'm expecting from a big body, $18.5 million wide receiver. Like, that's what I want from Kenny Galladay this season. And if he does that, which is why I'm kind of saying he's never going to live up to the $18.5 million contract, because he's not going to – I don't think he's going to be a 1,400-yard guy. But if he does those little things that help you win football games, that's why the contract in the end could still be worth it without it being worth it, which is kind of weird to say, an oxymoron.
No, I understand. I understand exactly what you're talking about. Let's talk about another Giant who is much maligned. Was a Pro Bowler last year. Evan Engram. Let's talk about him because I think we're both bullish on Evan Engram.
I can't quit him. I can't quit him. I refuse
I know you can't.
to quit Evan Engram. I refuse.
Listen. If he's not good this year, Matt, if he's not good this year, I'm going to make you sit in the kitchen and smoke every Evan Engram until you no longer ever want to smoke an Evan Engram again.
It's you know what,
right.
You know what, Dan? If he's not good this year, he's going to go sign somewhere where he's going to be good.
I know. It's yeah.
Just you watch Evan Engram play.
He's going to sign with New England.
People are going to be so mad as I'm saying this. I can already see all the angry comments. You watch Evan Engram play football. The route running, just at the speed. I mean, he's just he's a nightmare for defenses, especially from that tight end slot. But
the issue is that his hands are made of trampolines.
See Dan. Over the course of his career, the man has had like a handful of bad games that account for over half his drops. So he's just there are just some days where he's just bad. And I think we need to get to a point where when, maybe it's during warm-ups if he drops a pass, we need to recognize, the coaching staff needs to recognize when Evan Ingram's just not having a good game, and that's when you play Kyle Rudolph a bunch.
Yeah, just all the whole game. And maybe that's the case, and maybe that's why they brought Rudolph in. But I think Rudolph will add another dimension. But let's keep focusing on Ingram here. Do you think Kenny Galladay's arrival, Matt, impacts Evan Engram dramatically? Do you think it could really help him?
I mean, a ton. And this is again, this goes back to why Kenny Galladay could be worth the money without actually being worth the money, just for what he could do for everyone involved in the offense. I mean, so much pressure was on Evan Engram last season because he really was the top target in the Giants' offense, and he's not a top target in any offense, and he shouldn't be.
No,
he's not that player. But with Kenny Galladay on the outside, he's going to require safety attention and safety help. That's going to free space up for Evan Engram to do what he does best, which is kind of attack that intermediate passing area, which the Giants didn't do enough targeting him of there last year. Kind of target him in that intermediate area between the 10 and the 20 yards downfield. Let Evan Engram catch the football there, and honestly, let him do damage after the catch because he's good with the ball in his hands after the catch. And I think the fact that they brought in Kenny Galladay, right, and then I do think Evan Engram, outside of a couple of bad games last season, wasn't awful. He was just okay.
The Eagles game did him in for our fan base.
Yep, 100%.
Like, our fan base basically was like, this guy needs to retire after that Eagles game, and that's fair. It was. I mean, it cost us a playoff spot. Really, if you think about it, it kind of did cost us a playoff spot. So, even though we didn't deserve to be a playoff team last year.
If you can just find Evan Engram space and throw him the football, he's going to be fantastic. And I truly mean that. And I'm not saying he's going to be fantastic, like he's going to be a 1,000-yard tight end. I'm saying, I think we put so much pressure on players, and like stat-wise. I'm saying like the impact he can have in the offense if you just give him the opportunity to get the ball in space is what the Giants need to do, and that's going to lift, kind of raise the offense's level up quite a bit because that's another really good weapon the Giants have. And
it is.
Coaches and executives are a lot higher on Evan Engram than fans are. I'll go ahead and say that as well. That's how he got into the program.
Yeah, for sure. Because, coaches really liked him. You got in over Tanyan, who had a very good year last year. Let's talk about the best of the rest. So, and by the best of the rest, I'm saying like Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Young Joka, a.k.a. Kadarius Toney, Kyle Rudolph. What are your expectations for them this year? And do you think we need to really be pumping the brakes on the Kadarius Toney expectations this year? Because I feel like they're getting out of hand already.
Let's address the Kadarius Toney thing first. I think Kadarius Toney is going to be brought along extremely slowly.
Right.
Like, the Giants have Kenny Golladay, they have Darius Slayton, they have Sterling Shepard, they're going to mix in Kyle Rudolph. I mean, the Giants are going to have plays in their playbook for Kadarius Toney, and the hope is that, like, every time...
And you're going to know, because it's Jason Garrett, you're going to know. You're going to be like, oh, Toney's in the backfield, he's getting the ball, and that's exactly what's going to happen every time.
I was literally about to say, you're going to hope the Giants aren't too predictable with it, but...
Oh, they're going to be. Jason Garrett will be.
If Kadarius Toney shows talent and he's really good from the start of the year, he's going to be really hard to keep off the field, right? But I think they're going to bring him along slowly, and again, throw all of this out the window. If week 1 he steps on the field and has like 3 insanely long catches or something like that, you could throw that out totally out the window. But I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to bring him along super slow. They're going to play Sterling Shepard in the slot, which is what they should be doing anyway. They have Darius Slayton, and he's just going to be mixed in, and as the season comes along, he'll progress. I don't really think Kadarius Toney is probably going to be like a 900 yard guy. And I'm saying total yards. I think it's probably going to be in like that 600 range total yards.
Which is, again, would be a good rookie year for him. It would be a fine rookie year for him. There's a lot of mouths to feed. And the person feeding the mouths it's not like Patrick Mahomes is back there throwing the ball. All right? It's like the chef. It's like one of the bad chefs from one of those Gordon Ramsay shows. And throwing the ball back there.
And then in terms of the rest, right? In terms of everyone else, like Kadarius Toney, we know he's going to be brought along slowly. We know there's a ton of potential there. I don't think we're necessarily going to see it all year 1. In terms of everyone else, man, Sterling Shepard, he's still probably the 4th guy on offense in terms of pecking order after Saquon, Kenny Golladay, Evan Engram. We know he's like Daniel Jones, like security blanket in a lot of ways. I still think Sterling Shepard's going to have a solid year. He is. You know what you have in Shepard.
You know what Shep is.
Hopefully,
not going to play every game, likely, but that's okay.
Hopefully, the Giants push him inside more this year because he plays best in the slot. And he's a reliable wide receiver. He's going to catch what's thrown to him. He's not going to do a ton after the catch, but you know what Sterling Shepard is. Solid wide receiver. He's a great 4th option in your offense. If you're looking at the Giants offense and, Sterling Shepard likely is that 3rd or 4th option, he's a great 3rd or 4th option. You should be very happy. And Darius Slayton / Kyle Rudolph, they're a great 5th option.
I was going to say about Darius Slayton, what are your expectations for Darius Slayton this year? Why do you think he's going to get 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns?
Oh, my gosh. The amount of fans that thought that's what was the next step in Darius Slayton's career. Darius Slayton, Dan, didn't have a bad year last year. Fans,
he had like an identical year to his rookie year. He just had less touchdowns. Which was a good year. He had a good year last year.
The touchdown percentage was always going to go down. He was scoring touchdowns like 10% of his catches in his rookie season.
It was insane. It was a completely disproportional rate in his rookie year. But he had a good year last year. People wanted to, bash on him. Like, wow, you didn't take the next step. No, he was good.
And he's still a good wide receiver. And again, I think probably another similar season than what he did the past 2 years. He's that guy who's going to put up 50, 60 catches and 600, 700 yards. That's what he is. And he was a great pick for what he does. Excellent pick, good football player.
One of Gettleman's best draft picks ever. So,
and I don't necessarily think the Giants need him to be superstar, 1,000-yard, 13-touchdown guy. They just need him to kind of be the guy that takes the top off the defense and, make some of the tougher catches.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Rudolph, who's kind of that last. I think we haven't really touched on John Ross that much, but.
No, John Ross will get 1 touchdown this year. You'd be like, oh, he's still in the league? And it'll be like, oh, that's kind of nice. And then, I think Rudolph, Rudolph's just a good second tight end.
I think the big thing with Rudolph is red zone, right?
Yeah.
Red zone.
Yeah, because he's a big dude. Yeah.
Like, he should be scoring touchdowns.
What percentage of snaps should the Giants bench Evan Engram and Kyle Rudolph and Caden Smith?
I mean, unless
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm kidding.
Caden Smith won't see the field.
That's a joke.
Get hurt.
I know. I'm again, Giants fans. This is the summer of honest expectations, right? We're going to be honest with ourselves, and we're going to focus. We have a lot of good pieces. Let's focus on the good. Let's not dumpster dive for no reason here, folks. All right.
And I just kind of want to point out as we're naming these guys, right? Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, Evan Engram, Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Darius Slayton, Kyle Rudolph. You hear all those names, you should get excited. Like, that is
it's a
good core.
It's a good group
of pass catchers and offensive weapons. Honestly, I think you'd probably.
If Daniel Jones is worth. Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say you're probably going to be hard pressed over the kind of the. And they haven't stepped on the field yet, but on paper, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better and more talented group of playmakers in the last 10, 20 years. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Because that's what, there's 4 wide receivers on this team that.
You're saying for the Giants?
Yes. Not.
Yes.
Not
okay.
history of the league. Just the Giants.
I just want to clarify that. People will take that out of context if we don't clarify that.
That's.
But yeah, I agree for the Giants, right? And that's why if Daniel Jones is worth anything this year, he has the best year of his career and looks the part.
Average.
If he's worth anything, there's no more excuses.
Average quarterback play, and mediocre offensive line play. This offense should. I was going to say this offense is going to be in the top half of the league in scoring. Mediocre. So when I say mediocre offensive line play, the Giants finished 20th in offensive line, and Daniel Jones is just straight average the whole year. This team should be like 12th, 13th in scoring for points.
Yeah,
which is
and that should mean playoff team.
That's a big step from what they were. So.
Yep. For sure. Let's talk about the offensive line. Speaking of dumpster fires, and dumpster diving, I hate the fact that the offensive line I know we said from 2018 to now it's better, but from 2020 to now the offensive line is worse.
Yes. I think
on paper at least it's worse.
And I think the hope
is... Because they're banking... Right, the Giants are essentially banking on every young guy hitting, and that's a really... For an organization that has not drafted well, basically for 12 years at this point, that's a bold strategy.
I mean, this is now like every single one of these guys that are expected to start in the line, and we can just go left to right.
Sure.
Thomas, Lemieux, Gates, Hernandez, Parrott. Left to right. That's what we expect, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
That's what the coaching staff needs to expect.
So, these are all young Dave Gettleman guys.
Ugh. And that should scare you. If you're a Giants fan and you're trying to be optimistic about this season, it should realistically should probably stop right here. Like, this line is bad.
It's one of those things.
It's going to cost us games this year.
Right, Dan? It's one of those things when you should get really excited about all these weapons, and I 100% mean that. Like in terms of football players, like I'm so thrilled for these weapons. I'm so excited to see all these guys out in the field together. But the offensive line and the quarterback, from what we've seen so far, are not good, and they will hold back the playmakers.
Yeah.
And if we want to talk about each kind of guy on the line, obviously the biggest loss was Kevin Zeitler. We lost Zeitler.
Right.
Football guy Kevin Zeitler taking, doing pass sets while his wife's giving birth. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. I did see that.
Love
Thank God
football guy too.
We signed Logan Ryan over him.
Yeah, we'll talk about Logan
Ryan. Thank God.
Oh, that's a next episode thing.
It is next episode. But disgusting.
You look at the line, and I mean, Andrew Thomas has to get better, right? Right.
He can't get worse.
So
can he?
I went back then, and I looked at Andrew Thomas play. I don't think for the first 8 games this year he was NFL ready. And I know like he was labeled.
No, he wasn't. He clearly wasn't.
In the draft, he was labeled as like the most NFL ready left tackle.
And hand up, I said that. I said he was. I was wrong.
I don't know what happened between the end of the, 2019 college football season and the beginning of the 2020 NFL season, but something happened and he took like a massive step back and he wasn't really NFL ready until like week 8. Week 9. Like, he was like halfway through the season where you kind of saw Thomas like take this turn, and it was a sizable jump in the sense that he went from like god awful, barely playable to just like mediocre. So, and then he finished the season kind of on that mediocre streak, which if he had played like that the whole year, I think we'd be, excited about his potential. Rookie offensive line steps in, plays left tackle. He's not good, but he's not bad, and you're like, okay, like this guy had a solid rookie year. So you kind of look at half of Thomas's rookie year and you're like, he was okay for a rookie. But you look at the first half and he was so bad, and there was some really bad stuff in the second half still, and it makes you kind of wonder, does he fall more towards it being just awful? Is he on the rise? And the Giants need him to be.
Well, yeah, he's the biggest piece of that line. He needs to be like a starting left tackle this year, like an NFL ready. He needs to look like the guy who shut down Josh Allen in college. He needs to look like the guy who shut down Kayvon Chason in college. That was the guy that I watched and I fell in love with. I had him as my number 2 ranked offensive tackle that year. Okay? So that's what we need to see from him. And if we don't see that from him this year, it's probably not going to happen. It probably means we wasted a top 5 pick on a guy who wasn't worth it.
I will say.
So he needs to grow.
I will say, historically, Lane Johnson, pretty bad his first season. I think it was Russell Okung, pretty bad his first season. So like there is a history of guys struggling out of the gate, kind of picking up steam as the season goes along, getting a little bit better, and then from there they're okay. So like,
and especially in off season like they had last year too.
By no means am I ready to smash a panic button on Andrew Thomas. I still think, just based off scouting him and watching him play, I still think he'll be okay. I am worried about the kind of elite potential. When you draft a left tackle at 4, you want him to be like Ronnie Stanley from Baltimore, like the
gold
best left tackle.
You want the gold jacket potential.
Yep. And I am worried about that. I don't know if that's still obtainable. From what I saw last year, and I'm not saying it's not, but that does concern me. How high is the ceiling?
Yeah, and that's fair, and that should concern Giants fans.
I still think the ceiling, though.
I want to talk about. Good. Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. So he needs to take a next step. Let's talk about the other tackle, the right tackle, the projected right tackle, Matt Peart. Giants fans, for some reason, again, are expecting him to come in and just be this star right tackle. And I like, Matt, what are the numbers saying about Peart? Like, are you optimistic? What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, he wasn't a fantastic pass blocker last year, Dan. Like, nothing. He stepped in and he was okay, but it wasn't like he was this special pass blocker last year. He allowed a couple sacks. He allowed a couple hits. I think he had like 7 pressures on 40 pass snaps, something like that, 45, somewhere in between there. So, I mean, that's not good. But, again...
Not a deal.
Again, it's one of those things where we barely saw him play, and, the actual Giants beat writers and stuff, they weren't invited to practice, so they barely saw him practice. So we don't really know what he is. We have no idea. Yeah. He's a giant question mark. He could be good. He could not be good. There are Giants fans who are sold on the fact that he's going to be fantastic. And
I know.
My question for all of them is, how do you know? Because we don't. Like, we haven't seen...
There's no evidence either way.
We haven't seen enough of him on a football field to sit here and say, yes, this man, right side of the line, is going to be locked down. At the same time, with how bad some of the other options the Giants have had at right tackle have been, Cam Fleming actually wasn't terrible, but with how bad some other guys were that we've had over the last decade, can he be any worse than any of those guys? Probably not. So,
yeah. And another thing I've been seeing on Instagram and stuff is he's really big, Matt.
He's huge. He is.
So he's big. So, I mean, how bad could he be if he's really, really big?
He'll at least be hard to push out of the way.
Yeah, because he's a massive human being. All right, let's talk about somebody who sucked last year. Literally was like the worst ranked PFF guard in Shane Lemieux. Giants fans think he's like the Mario Lemieux of guards for some reason. I don't know why. He was terrible last year. I
don't know how the Giants, and I've went back and I watched Shane Lemieux play. I think you've gone back and watched Shane Lemieux play.
Yes, it was not good.
It's the tape and the stats both say the same thing, and he was awful. Like there wasn't even
this god awful.
Like with Andrew Thomas, he was god awful, but we saw progression, right? So at least with Andrew Thomas, you could say, okay, there's progression, there's hope, yada yada yada. With Shane Lemieux, it was god awful, and he stayed god awful, and he never got better. So I don't know how the Giants decision makers went back and watched last season and said, we can go into 2021 with Shane Lemieux as one of our guards in zero competition.
Yeah, because that's pretty much what they did, and it's alarming because like he looked terrible, like he looked unplayable, and the fact that they cut Kevin Zeitler and he's likely going to be taking Kevin Zeitler's spot, right? It is alarming. It's not putting this team in the best position to succeed. And he's a 5th-round pick. It's not like he was a high-round pick. It's not like you can say, oh, he was like a 2nd-rounder. He's a 5th-round pick. 5th-round picks. We just saw the Giants last year. Last offseason, everybody was like, oh, Ryan Conley. He's a 5th-round pick. He's going to be our starting linebacker. He got cut out of the gate. He didn't make the team. So let's pump the brakes on Shane Lemieux, and it's disgusting that we didn't at least bring in some competition.
That's kind of when you're as Giants fans, when you're kind of thinking about this offseason and where the team failed, it's not addressing the 2 guard spots, because at least you could say, all right, the Giants took Parrott in the 3rd round. They clearly believe in him, right? We haven't seen it. We don't know enough to know if he was good or bad. Like we didn't see enough of him last year. But the Giants clearly believe in him. They at least have Nate Solder, who's not by any means good, but can at least be somewhat serviceable if you need him to be at tackle. If Parrott's totally awful. The Giants don't have anyone at either guard spot, and Will Hernandez was bad last year too. Like that guard position is where the Giants failed this offseason. They let Kevin Zeitler go, and they brought in no one else. They're just going to throw out Will Hernandez and Shane Lemieux, and they're going to hope for the best. And
it's almost like they're going all in with like pocket sevens.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and it's like that could risky. Work in theory. Could work. But it's like if somebody just has a pair of 8s, you lose. You're done. And that's almost like what they're doing. They're like, oh, like cards are all dealt, pocket 7s, all in. It makes no sense. It's terrible strategy. It could work, but more likely than not, it's not going to.
I just when you look at our division, right, Dan? Look at our division. Week 2, we play Washington. I don't see how the Giants' offensive line is expecting to survive against the interior of the line. I know Nick Gates, and we'll talk about Nick Gates in a second. Nick Gates is fine, but Will Hernandez and Shane Lemieux, I don't know how you're expecting those guys to go up against that interior of the Washington football team's offensive line, which is just so good.
Yeah, Fletcher Cox. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's still on the Eagles, right? I didn't miss anything,
yeah, he is.
Right?
He is.
So they got to play Fletcher Cox twice a year. Like, it's just. Yeah, it's not good. Nick Gates was a good center, though. So we both thought he was going to stink last year, and that kind of worked out. So maybe we'll be wrong again.
I mean, but Nick Gates had a rough start to the year. He really pulled it together as the season went along. He was an average center. The Giants aren't paying him to be anything special, so he can be an average center. And, I think we are at a point with Will Hernandez where we've seen all we're going to see. Will Hernandez is what he is.
Yeah.
And, he's a bottom-tier starting guard. It's what he is. And, I think the hope now is Shane Lemieux, last season he was god-awful, and somehow he goes from god-awful to good. Because you're going to need him to. And I know a lot of people thought, oh, well, Andrew Thomas and the whole line started playing better when Shane Lemieux stepped in. And it just so happened that it correlated exactly with when Mark Colombo was fired. So
because Mark Colombo was a bad Joe Judge fought him out of town, allegedly, of course, but not really. But anyway.
But maybe.
But probably. But not confirmed. But anyway. Yeah. Bottom line is that, this is the X factor for the whole team this year. This will determine if this team wins 6 games. This will determine if this team wins 10 games or beyond. It's the offensive line. So let's get to your questions. You guys ready for that?
Yeah.
You ready to answer some questions?
All right. Questions.
So we had some good fan questions for today. We're not going to be able to answer all of them, but we'll answer some of them. It's the ones we like. Christopher asks, what's the problem with Mr. Florida Gator, a.k.a. Kadarius Toney? Everyone is saying he's a disappointment, and I don't get it.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now. Giants fans that are upset that Kadarius Toney did not report to voluntary workouts are the worst fans the fan base has. They are.
Yeah.
If your boss called you, and this goes for anyone, if your boss called you and said, "Hey, tomorrow morning, you don't have to show up for work. Don't show up for work tomorrow. I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you the same amount, but you don't have to come to work tomorrow." Are you going to work?
Yeah, the answer is a hard no.
Yeah.
So I have a championship ready to attend tomorrow. But also right. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
It's just not going to happen.
So why in the world are we upset that a guy didn't show up to a voluntary workout? He was there he was either there or excused for all of the mandatory workouts. So he showed up when he had to. So why are we upset that he didn't show up for a voluntary workout?
Coincidentally, this podcast is brought to you by Young Joker's Warrior 2 album. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music right now. Go check it out. Kadarius Toney's Young Joker, Warrior 2. It's the best rap album of all time.
Let's also be real, Dan. We're not really sponsored, but let's be real.
No, we're not. He did not sponsor.
Let's also be real here and say that, like, if Kadarius Toney didn't have the rap thing going on, this would have flown completely under the radar and no one would have cared.
But Giants fans are already making the narrative that he doesn't care about football because he likes to do music on the side.
Because he has hobbies.
That's like saying we don't care about our jobs because we do this for fun.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
It's ridiculous.
It's stupid. So, all right. So he hasn't been a disappointment yet. Let's wait till we actually play before
we say his disappointment. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now too, guys. He might not be very good this season because his usage it might be very low, especially through the first half of the year. He might not get a ton of usage. So let's also not rush to judge him after one season either. As soon as the Giants took him 20th overall, didn't like the pick, threw a chair, just like John Mara did.
You did throw a chair. You did throw a chair.
As someone who did not like the pick, thought he was a big reach at 20, I'm sitting here and telling you that he's a guy that's going to take probably a year to develop. Don't expect a whole lot this year. I will not be calling for his head at the end of the season unless he gets in trouble off the field
with the law,
which
he's not gonna.
Which I don't think he's going to either. I think he's.
I'm not even putting that out in the universe.
I think he's outgrown those issues. So unless something like that happens, I'm not going to be mad at him, even if this season's pretty bad. So pump the brakes. He's more than a 1-year development project. Let's not overreact over the man's rap album.
Warrior 2 out now on Spotify and Apple Music. All right, Joseph asks, what is the status / outlook on Saquon Barkley and his capability to return to action at the beginning of the season? Now, I will say the Giants, and Barkley, they've not explicitly said he'll be ready. I think he's going to be ready to go.
I'm going to go ahead and say this, Dan, and we've done an excellent job of not cursing on this episode. The reports that the Giants are putting out that Saquon Barkley is not going to be full go week 1 are total horseshit. Horseshit.
Matt, we have a new phrase for that our Russian friend Nikita Kucherov taught us.
Okay.
Do you know what that phrase is?
No, I don't.
Number one bullshit. It's number one bullshit.
Okay.
It's number one bullshit.
It's not
he's gonna play.
He's gonna play.
They're trying to play coy with it. He shouldn't play a preseason game. No good running back should play in the preseason.
No. Honestly, Kenny Golladay shouldn't play a preseason game. Sterling Shepard shouldn't play a preseason game. Anyone that has any injury history, don't let him play in the preseason. Saquon Barkley, week 1. Go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there right now. As long as he's healthy for the whole game, he's going to get like 18, 20 touches. Like, he's going to be fine.
For sure. Okay. And, yeah, for sure. All right. Matthew asks, if the offense struggles again, who do you think gets the boot? Garrett, Judge, or Gettleman? I'm going to go out. Do you mind if I answer this one
first? Go ahead.
Sure. So, there's no chance Judge is getting fired this year. The team could go 0-16. They're not firing Joe Judge.
No.
But Joe Judge, I think, wants to fire Jason Garrett.
Yes.
Like, low-key, I think he does. And I don't think he was allowed to make that change because the Giants are concerned with Daniel Jones learning his third different offense. 3 years. But I don't think I think if this offense is not good this year, Jason Garrett will be fired mid-season.
Bold
take.
I was going to say, if the offense isn't good, Freddie Kitchens will be the offensive coordinator before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like that's just a fact. So Garrett, yes, offense struggles, Garrett's out the door. If the offense struggles, and the reason why the offense struggles is very clearly Daniel Jones. Dave Gettleman has hitched his wheel to that wagon, and I think he will also be gone at the end of the season. So if the offense struggles, yes, Jason Garrett's out of here. If the offense struggles and everyone's playing well and it's just a quarterback play, I think Dave Gettleman's also out of here. Because I think what's going to happen is Joe Judge will march into John Mara's office and he'll say, hey, I didn't pick this guy. This is my quarterback. You can't fire me before I pick my own quarterback. And that's how Joe Judge will get a couple more years out of...
And rightfully so.
Yeah,
Quite frankly, rightfully so. And that's the risk that you take when we said 2 years ago you should have fired Pat Shurmur and you should have fired Dave Gettleman at the same time. This is what that causes. That's the divide you get when that happens. So you made the bed. The Giants made the bed. They got to land it.
So that's what's going to happen if the offense does struggle again. Again, mediocre line play. And Dan, honestly, even if Jones could be like the 18th quarterback in the league this year, the offense should be good enough.
It should. I agree.
Good enough.
I agree.
That's not, if Jones is the 18th best quarterback after this season, like if you look at you look at the season and he's kind of bottom half of the league, that's still not enough to be convinced that he's your future guy. But that should be enough for the Giants to make the playoffs despite Jones.
Yeah. For sure. All right, last question. What is your favorite song on Warrior 2, and why is that going to cause Kadarius Toney to have a bad season this year? Who submitted that? Who submitted that question? Come on. Come on.
Listen. It's going to be so much fun to watch the entire fan base be so excited and start calling him Young Joker and stuff like that after he scores like a 60-yard touchdown. Like the flip-flop we're going to see throughout the season. Yeah. It's going to be throughout the whole season.
And then he's going to drop like an important pass, and you're going to have like some 60-year-old Giants fan who's had season tickets since they were in the Bronx being like, he should call himself Young Joker because he's a joke, not Young Joker. This guy's such a joke. I hate this guy. He sucks. So it's gonna be fun to see the pendulum.
It's gonna be very fun to like the satire that we're gonna be able to do this year.
Yeah. Oh, dude, for sure.
I've
had these tickets. I've had these tickets as long as both you guys have been alive combined.
So
all right.
as you guys are, when you guys see us questioning Kadarius Toney because of his rap album, realize 100% that it's a joke.
We're joking.
It's 100% a joke.
We're not being serious.
And I kind of just go back and I imagine myself because originally, like, there was a chance the Giants could have been interested in Juju Smith-Schuster. There was like a day in free agency where like the Giants had called Schuster's camp and had some conversations. I don't think it didn't go very far, but they at least made the phone call. And I just couldn't imagine what Giants fans would have done.
Oh, dude, that would have been a content dream for us because it's like,
but
we would have lost a game 38-7, and they would have blamed Juju Smith-Schuster for dancing on the team's logo pregame instead of the defense.
But
like, it would have just been a content factory.
But like it's going to be really funny. It would have been really funny to see that, and we're kind of getting a piece of that with Kadarius Toney and how ridiculous fans can be.
Yeah, it's almost like you couldn't get the big toy, but you're getting the little toy, in the store. But anyway, folks, that's our show.
That was a great analogy. That was so good. That was excellent.
Yeah. So we're gonna have some fun this year with this offense. Hopefully it doesn't suck. But that's our show. Episode 3 will come out after episode 2, which we haven't. We were recording in chronological order. So episode 3 will come out after this. If you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, what are you doing? Go back and listen to episode 1. But thank you so much for listening.
Are we just ending it right there?
That works.
Okay.